you probably want the very best. But what does the very best mean? Is that durable, versatile, rare? In this case, I think best means the warmest, softest, and lightest coat money can buy. A trend right now online is to discuss what quiet luxury looks like. This is not quiet luxury, and neither is this. Just wearing subtle colors, crests, and muted tones together aren't quiet luxury. This is quiet luxury. By definition, luxury cannot be affordable and everyone can't have it. Spending $20,000 to $60,000 on a coat is the entry point to quiet luxury. A lot of research goes into why we buy things like this. And when looking at particularly rare things like vicuña, we care about things like how thin is the fiber, how consistent is the fiber, how soft is the fiber, and how warm is the fiber. All those things come together to make the ideal coat. So what makes vicuña special? Well, first, it's how thin the fiber is. And to understand, the reference point we're gonna use is a human hair, which is 100 microns across. Merino wool, which I'm sure you've heard of, is 22 microns, that's sheep. Cashmere, which is goat hair, is between 14 and 19 microns. Vicuña is just 12 to 13 microns. Luxury does not care about percentage gains. They care about having the very best at any cost. That 12 to 13 micron count that I gave you, that's what we call the average fiber diameter, or AFD. The other measurement we care about is called standard deviation, would tell us the average of individual fibers and how they differ in the AFD of the sample. A low standard deviation tells me that the fleece is very uniform and therefore it'll have a very soft handle or hand. Incredibly, vicuña can be as low as 1.5 microns of standard deviation. The next thing I care about is how smooth is the fiber. Fibers at the microscopic level have tiny layers of scales all over them. The smaller the cuticle scale height, the smoother the fiber will feel in your hand. The cuticle scale height for alpacas is just 0.2 to 0.3 microns. The next thing you of course care about with vicuña is how warm is the fiber. The fibers trap air and that keeps the warmth near your body. In a cross-section of clothing, the thinner the fiber is, the more air you can trap in the same cross-section. But here's the thing with vicuña. You can trap air inside the fiber as well, and that's called medulation. There's a hollow area inside the fiber. They're called medulated islands because they're inconsistent in their placement throughout the fiber. Vicuña fibers are so fine and evenly structured that their medulation does not significantly compromise durability. Instead, it actually contributes to the fabric's softness and breathability. Some luxury brands that offer dyed versions of vicuña mostly do so in deep, rich tones like navy, charcoal, and burgundy, mostly because these colors work and they complement with the natural golden base of the vicuña rather than fighting against it. So why doesn't everyone have vicuña? Well, it's rare. Vicuña live in the Andes at altitudes up to 17,000 feet. They're skittish and they run 30 miles an hour. They're so hard to catch, it used to be easier to literally kill and skin them, so the fur trade was banned in the 1970s. But it wasn't until 1999 that the US downgraded vicuña from endangered to threatened in recognition of the efforts of the Peruvian people to protect the vicuña, and that ruling allowed vicuña trade to commence for clothing. Okay, so assuming you can catch a vicuña and you can shear it, your next problem is called fleece regeneration, which is literally how fast they can grow their hair. They only grow 1 inch of hair per year and they're shaved every 2 years, which means that you only get about 500 grams per shearing. Each year, only 6,000 kilos of vicuña is produced. By comparison, 25 million kilos of cashmere is produced each year. All right, so it's difficult to get, difficult to shear. It's also difficult to process. Most of it is done by hand. Carding machines tend to damage the fiber, and spinning machines don't do well with staple lengths or fiber lengths less than 1 inch. But once you've sorted it, carded it, and have the yarn, you have to weave it. The average Super 100's wool can be woven at a speed of 400 picks per minute. In comparison, the weaving time for vicuña cannot exceed 260. All of that difficulty and rarity means that it's expensive. Unprocessed vicuña is sold by the kilo, and it's between $400 to $600 per kilogram. The price of vicuña fabric varies depending on factors like quality, weight, and manufacturer. But I mean, just for instance, a cloth like the one that I'm wearing, which is 100% Vicuña, would go for right around $4,900 per meter. Given this pricing, if you were to work it out in terms of a kilogram of cloth, that would make just the cloth in this coat worth just shy of $11,000. For comparison, platinum is selling for $30,000 per kilo and gold is $90,000 per kilo. All right, so what everyone asks, is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. If it's better and you can afford it, you should buy it. But I have some guidance on which one you should buy. My coat is short because I live in a commuter city. I drive a car to work, I drive a car to clients. If you drive as well, or you primarily use a car service, this is probably the ideal coat length to keep in your office. You toss it over a suit. Even in the middle of winter, you can go out and get a car or a taxi and you'll be just fine. If you live a pedestrian life, you probably want to spend the extra $10,000 or $20,000 and get the longer coat because it keeps you so very warm here that you're going to be cold everywhere else. So the longer coat would mean you don't have to layer substantially to match the warmth of just the coat itself. Next, I would say be conscious of how the material is used. My unlined Vicuña bomber is way more useful for more of the year to me because it is breathable, it is a very responsive fiber, temperature regulates very well. This one happens to be downlined, traps heat with the Vicuña and also the down lining. So this is very, very warm and I can only use this, a few months out of the year. If you need to be outside and it's really cold for a very long time, you would want even more than that. Think like the Ice St. Moritz. You would want, the mink-lined version of this with the padded goose down. That would be the ideal coat for that environment. So who should not buy this coat? Anyone buying this coat for warmth as your main or only coat, who would also be upset about spills, tears, or stains on your $50,000 coat, don't buy this. Also, the modulation that makes this coat very warm also makes it somewhat delicate. It probably shouldn't be your only coat. If you want to have just Vicuña, you probably should buy 4 or 5 of these, which I guess lastly means you shouldn't buy this coat if you take even a passing interest in cost.